Our time is now 5 o'clock. So I invite you to come to your resting position. It could be lying on your back. It could be seated. If you've got a wall nearby, you might sit up against the wall or swing your legs up the wall so feet are towards the ceiling. Hips are also against the wall. We'll spend the first several minutes here just getting oriented to our physical space and our own bodies. So as you get yourself situated, maybe you notice a way that you could be a little bit more comfortable. Using the wall or a piece of furniture is one option. Adding pillows or blankets, blocks, books. I almost said telephone book, though I did get one at my house in the past year. I have to save that for yoga next time. So if there's something that would make you more comfortable, I invite you to take advantage of that. Today, I want us to explore just a little bit of novelty. So one of the things that the pandemic has taken from us is a lot of our new experiences. We have more monotony. There's less that is accessible to us. It's opened up some new pathways, some new ways of doing things, absolutely. But our sense of novelty, things that are just new and different, has been more limited. So I invite you in our class tonight, just see if there's a few things that you might do just a little bit differently. So if there's a foot you normally set forward first, or a direction that you normally roll in fetal pose, or a way that you get yourself into certain positions, maybe try something new. And I'm thinking subtle things, like if you were starting your day, think about what hand you usually brush your teeth with. Do it with the other hand. That kind of small changes, we'll see what we can build into our practice. I'll invite it in some ways, but be thinking about that for yourself. Okay, you might have already started to notice what's going on in your body. Scan through, and instead of going head to toe, toe to head, find the place in your body that is telling you something very loudly. Is there a part of your body that is screaming something? And if you notice the body screaming something, will you do anything differently? So if I'm thinking, honestly, what's my body telling me? My low back is the place that I'm noticing most vividly. I'll try out something new. I'll just rest, kind of lean back a little bit on this pillow, see if it makes a difference for me. Okay, so if your body is screaming something, do you want to make an adjustment? Notice if your body is telling you something loudly in a different area. Could be physical, could be more mental, emotional. So one of the things that I'm hearing kind of loudly is that I feel kind of constricted, congested, not in my sinuses, just like my torso feels kind of small and crunched over. Okay, so I notice that. I'm going to try taking bigger breaths. See if that changes what I'm hearing. And notice if your body's whispering anything. Are there more subtle clues or subtle cues? But there's a feeling or physical sensation in parts of the body. So one of the whispers that I hear is that my face feels really comfortable when my eyebrows are relaxed. Sometimes when I talk, I raise my eyebrows or I furrow my eyebrows. And when they're just neutral, my face just feels like a spa day. It just feels really relaxed. So that's one of the subtle things I'm noticing. And then finally, check in with your body one more time for the places where it's not saying anything at all, no particular message, just kind of existing, being. So for me, I notice that my breath is happening, not being particularly intentional in this moment about it, but it's flowing on without me. So now that you've noticed those different layers and perhaps made an adjustment based on any of those things, one or more that you noticed, for the purpose of our practice tonight, I invite you to deepen your breath. Let it be full, expansive, and especially with the exhales. Now you might have noticed, if you were picking up on what I was saying, that one of the things I noticed was I wanted a deeper breath. Then one of the things I noticed was I wasn't doing anything intentional with my breath. And that'll happen. So take this full intentional breath now. If the focus on the breath fades away, you can always come back to it. The long exhales in particular tell our nervous system it's time to rest, it's time to relax. There are not any threats. We get to be restored. Okay. If you're seated and feel comfortable lying down, I'm going to invite you to do that. We'll all stay lying down for a few minutes here and take a few subtle movements, just looking for a little bit of novelty here. Just something that we don't always do. We'll see what we can notice. I'm going to keep my head on a pillow just because it's a little easier for me to see the screen when I do. So if it feels okay, come to lying flat on your back. If you need more low back support, feet on the floor is great. Okay, keeping everything on the mat. And if you've taken my class a few years ago, we used to do this. We're going to do a subtle arch and release of the low back. So you're pretty much flat on the ground. It's so, so tiny. But as you inhale, lift your low back off the floor. And as you exhale, let it flatten back down. Do it a few more times. Inhaling, lifting the low back off the floor. Everything stays pretty flat. It's just the small of your back that's lifting. And exhale, flatten, and move slowly. Again, lifting the low back off the floor. I don't even know that you could see much of a difference. You were looking at me inside my apartment. And then exhale, Lower maybe one more time. Seeing if you can smooth out that movement to lift the low back and return it to the floor. Well, not often that we isolate our movement in that way. All right, let's move just the head. So just the head can come off the floor. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, bring the chin to the chest, head can lift. As you inhale, let the head come back down. So everything else stays still. Just exhale, chin to chest. Not a sit up, just a little bit of a neck stretch. Inhale back down. Exhale, and I'm picking exhale because chin to chest, we lose a little bit of space for air, so let's push it out. And we have room for air, head back down. Notice how the rest of the body may want to compensate here. Exhale, chin to chest, so I can feel my shoulders want to lift. My fingers start to move. They don't need to be involved. Just notice how the body tries to compensate. And back down. Okay, so if you're flat on the ground, now we're going to take the left shoulder first, and just lift the left shoulder off the mat. So arms stay down. Lift the left shoulder. So it's the front of the left shoulder comes up. Hands are still on the ground, forearms still on the ground. And then the left shoulder returns to the mat. So the back of the left shoulder comes back down. A couple more times, lifting that shoulder. So the front of the shoulder comes towards the ceiling, rest of the arm stays down and lower. Raising and lowering. Take a few more breaths, switch other side. Try to go slow but smooth. Right shoulder lifts, and if you're watching me, it might be hard to notice. I'm just doing a little lift. So like if I was wearing a tank top, the strap of my tank top, I'd be lifting it towards the ceiling without moving anything else in my body, lowering back down. Just finding subtle movements that are rare for us to do in isolation to see what they feel like. Okay, once you've moved a little bit with both shoulders, now let's make the movements bigger. Long body stretch. Fingertips reach back, heels reach forward. You can stretch as much as you'd like. Then see what it's like to kind of keep this arms and legs stretch, but soften. Just let it be passive. Body just rests here, arms above, legs below. Stretch again, more active. And then soften, passive. Just resting, arms overhead. Legs relaxed. One more time, stretching. Active, flexing feet, spreading fingers. Broadening the chest even. And exhale, let it hold here, arms and legs relaxed. Okay, roll to either side, fetal pose. For the sake of something new, you might roll to the side that you don't usually roll to. Take a few breaths here. Maybe you try out bending your knees more than usual. Or maybe the legs go straighter than typical for you. If the focus on the breath has served you, return your focus there. We build our lives around the patterns that we often take, but when we switch the patterns just a little bit, we might find something new, useful, exciting in our lives. We also might find something that is harder or challenging, but we don't know until we just try things a little bit differently, not the same old routines. All right, from fetal pose, let's press to tabletop. If you've got a pillow or blanket, you might put it right away under your knees. Typically, I wait till I feel some kind of pain or discomfort, but in the spirit of trying new things, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm just going to do it. Okay, we're going to start right away by threading the needle, but we're going to flow it a couple times first. So starting with your right hand, go ahead, reach it up and overhead, and then exhale, thread through. Just one breath. Exhale, head drops. As you start to inhale, start to unwind again, reaching up and reaching through. Now, as you notice other parts of your body move along with you, you could decide to exaggerate it. So I notice my hips kind of shift side to side. You could exaggerate it. Or you could isolate it like we did at the beginning. I'm going to keep my hips steady and just try to focus on my arm reaching and threading hips really still. So your choice. Again, exaggerate something that you notice or isolate. We'll do it one more time and then we're going to reach and hold. And I'm not going really fast. I'm not trying to build much heat here. Just get a little sensation to notice. So this time, as you thread through, go ahead and settle in. Right arm reaches through. Head rests on the mat or pillows, or doesn't rest at all. You might just keep yourself propped up a bit. If you don't normally wrap your arm behind your low back, maybe today you do. If you usually do wrap your arm behind your low back, maybe today you don't. Or you just switch the direction that your hand is facing. Okay, a few more breaths here, threading the needle. Bring the right hand, or rather left hand under your left shoulder. Start to unwind, reach up, and then back to tabletop. We'll do the opposite side. Inhale, reach your left arm high. And we'll thread it through. Find a comfortable pace for you. Using inhales to reach, flowing this a few times first. And noticing the rest of the body as you do it. Deciding if you want to exaggerate or isolate. So if I choose to keep my hips really steady, and I focus on the stretch, specifically of my shoulder and upper back, that prioritizes that area. If I let my hips move along, I might get deeper into the stretch, where I might get something out of the stretch or movement to my hips that I don't normally get, and thread the needle. Once you get to this next reach, go ahead and stay. For any reason you don't want to be chest down, and sorry I didn't mention this earlier, you can bring the left arm across, right arm underneath in a seated position. Okay, bring the right hand back under the right shoulder. Inhale, unthread the left arm and hand back down. We'll take cat and cow, but we'll add on the variation that we tried last week. So start with cat and cow, drop the belly, lift the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades, inhale. And exhale, separate the shoulder blades, drop the tailbone, drop the head, exhale. Lots of ways that you could add variety here. Maybe you put one hand in front of the other. Maybe you lift one hand up. Maybe you bring the knees wider. Or the one that I want to invite, walking your hands over to the right so that as you move through cat and cow, you get a little bit of a lateral bend as well. So kind of a complex motion here. And just see what you think. You can always go more or go less. Neither is better. Just give something different to notice. Okay, you can walk your hands over to the other side as much or as little as you'd like. And your choice if you want to keep your hands below the shoulders, but walking to the left. Maybe you take them out farther. If you experience pain, burning, stinging, something sharp, back off. If it just kind of feels weird and different, try it out. Okay, take one more round. And then back to tabletop. All right, we're gonna take a standing forward fold right away. Think about how you normally would get into a standing forward fold. Maybe step one foot, then the other. If you would usually step your right foot first, try stepping left foot. Keep your head dropped. Lift the hips. Let the head hang. If you would normally keep your feet together, maybe step further out. If you'd normally step further out, what's it like to bring the feet together? You can grab opposite arm. You could wrap hands behind the low back. You could move a lot or a little. Maybe you add a little neck massage here. Let this feel good. You could focus on the low back release. You could shift weight a little bit forward and back, side to side. From here, it's your choice. You can make your way to a seated position or take a yogi squat. If you'd like a yogi squat, heels in, Toes out. Drop the hips between the heels. If one or more heels is lifted, I say one or more. If one or both heels are lifted, it's not going to be more than two. You can put something under that heel, towel, pillow, blanket. Actually, just the act for me of putting a towel under one heel switches this up. Like my balance feels different. I feel differently in my right arch. It's kind of interesting. I invite you to lengthen your spine if you're here in a yogi squat. If you're seated, use this as a hip opener. So you can be in an easy seat or take a butterfly pose, feet together, knees open. In either position, seated or yogi squat, if you've got something to sit up on, that might give some support. So books, box, yoga blocks. And just for the sake of novelty, I'm trying out this towel under both heels. Though I've run into some pain on the right side where I've already got some arch issues. So if there's sensation, things that are a little bit uncomfortable, I invite you to stick with it, get used to being with sensation. That's more of a yin style. If there's pain, if it's acute, or if you just think, that's not what I came for, switch to a different position. We'll take a few more breaths here. And then maybe you play with a different way to get out of yogi squat. We'll all meet seated. So normally I drop my head and forward fold. Today, I'm gonna let myself, I'm just gonna let myself just sit back on my hips. You might have heard some glass breaking behind me, so I'll do that a different day. Okay, easy seat, wherever you are, easy seat. Your choice, you can sit against a wall, up on a block or bolster, even a folded blanket or pillow. Okay, usually we start with the head and neck. Let's start mid-torso and work our way up. So find a little bit of a twist, and you might just start twisting to one side, hold, twist to the other side, hold. You might make it more fluid. You might use your arms if you've got space. Kind of washing machine-like. Just breathing. Your choice, pace is your choice. Okay, come back to center. Let's take a lateral bend. So reach your right arm up and over. Left hand can press into the mat. If you happen to have a strap or a towel, you could hold onto that strap, pressing the strap into the floor, pulling the strap up towards the ceiling as you reach your body over, long right side of the body. Notice if you tend to fold forward, you can see the shadow. The light is not getting on my face because I'm folding forward. Maybe today you focus more on letting yourself be a little more open. Okay, big sweeping movement to the other side. Right hand can come down, left arm reaches overhead, and it can be any amount. If you don't like the arm overhead, hand can be on hip or on thigh. You can stretch the left side without the left arm involved. Come on back up to center. Bring right arm across the chest and left arm across the chest. Just a couple times, sweeping across, giving a little pull, sweeping across a little pull, kind of like thread the needle that we've already done. And then with the hands, press the palms forward. Tip the fingertips down, so backs of palms forward. A couple of times in each direction. If this was a bar or burn class, I'd say get your arms out straight. You don't have to do that. Focus on the wrists here. The rest of your arm can be doing anything comfortable. Turn, let your palms face each other, and then tip them down. Flex them. Bend and flex. You could face them out, bend and flex. So just getting some movement into the wrists. Circling the wrists is another option. Take the right palm onto the left fingers, draw them back gently. So creating sensation, not pain. Breathing all the way. Other hand, right fingers up, left hand gently helps them extend back. If you can catch the thumb, you're welcome to. Interlacing the fingers, doing, I'm sure this has a specific name from the disco era. Just see if you can get a little bend, a little bit of movement in the fingers. Doesn't this side, oh, that's kind of interesting. All right, I thought I could only lead right, but I can, nope. Left does not feel as flowing. Okay, it's fine either way. Go ahead and squeeze the hands, release the hands, and set them back down at your sides. Let's move the shoulders. Inhale, shoulders come up. Exhale, they can go down and back. So inhale brings the shoulders up. Exhale, either rounds them forward or rounds them back. I'm moving a little bit quick. You do not need to move at my pace. In fact, I invite you to move more slowly than I started. If you've been doing them both together, try one at a time. If you've been thinking about the top of the shoulder, maybe bring your focus to the front of the shoulder. Pay attention to moving that forward and back. Think about the shoulder blades, moving them up and down, out and in. We will do some longer holds after this, so we're getting to the end of our slightly more active phase. Okay. Once you've moved those shoulders, those arms in different directions, let's move the neck. You move head and neck in the way that works for you. You could be circling, rotating. It could be ear to shoulder and hold, or chin to chest and hold. the sake of novelty, I'm gonna just gently place my hand on my head. Not even to guide, just my hand is kind of along for the ride. Just gonna see what I notice. That's kind of interesting to me. So just as I'm trying this out, I'm noticing I'm not moving my neck in a particular direction, but the hand on my head, I'm just giving gentle pressure with my finger pads, and that to me feels really soothing. My arm doesn't naturally move it so well, or so naturally, I guess, with my neck, but that extra pressure just kind of reminds me I like that soothing touch of my palm or the tips of my fingers resting on the body. So I'm just gonna note that for myself. Maybe I'll build it into another posture later. So if it brought up anything interesting for you, how you chose to move your head and neck, you can just note it. Okay, very good. Let's come back to center. All right, we're gonna set up deer pose, but first let's do head to knee pose. So we'll build in a forward fold before we go to a more lateral stretch, or what you might turn into a twisting stretch. So let's start right foot into the thigh or towards the thigh. Any amount, it doesn't have to be foot to thigh, just bending that right knee some. Left leg goes out at about 45-degree angle, but this could be a place where you play. Maybe you take it straight forward, maybe you take it out wider. Turn your body towards that leg and fold forward any amount. You can use props to support you. And if you traditionally think about, okay, I gotta stack things up to get my head on, maybe that changes. So I'm just gonna put a pillow under my torso and see how that feels. So how far you fold is totally up to you. It's not better or worse to have the head closer to the leg or further from the leg. We've moved quite a bit already in class. Now we're settling into more stillness. Here you might play a little bit with the novelty of what you consider when your mind wanders to something else. Okay, when you're ready, come back up to center. Now, if you want to do that again, absolutely an option. If you want to move to deer pose, you can bring some of your support out to your right side. If you don't have props around you, it's no problem. I'll give you some different options. So I've got pillows laid out here. I happen to know that I really want to be on this bigger pillow. Right leg stays about the same. Left leg swings back. If knee doesn't touch the ground, put something under to bring the ground up higher. Our classic deer pose with a lateral bend has us lengthening the right side, reaching, folding, resting. Variety might look like twisting the body, folding in a twist. It might look like folding forward rather than reaching out to the side. It might look like stacking the knees instead of having that pinwheel shape. And I remembered that I liked the sensation of hand on head when I was rotating my neck. So here in my deer pose, I'm just going to gently place my right hand on my head, even on the side of my face. In the spirit of trying something new, I'm going to see what that's like. There's any desire to try out a new variation or shift the weight, the body, you're always invited to do that. You stay here as long as you want. I'm going to move us, but you can take your time. If you're ready, you can press up to seated, shake out whatever you need to. So I like to just take a moment to do the reverse of what I just did. Okay. And we'll set that up on the other side. Left foot in. If hip feels tight, again, bring the floor up to the left leg. Turn your torso towards that extended leg, whether it's wide or more narrow, and fold. Changing paces, moving from flowing movements, breaths that might be a little quicker, to stillness for several minutes or even more. It takes some effort. This is not just a passive class. Mentally, it takes some effort to remind the self, I deserve to be still. There's something to gain from being still. I practice stillness here so that I'm able to be in stillness outside of my yoga practice. There's benefit to stillness. You can stay here. You do not need to move to deer pose right now. If you're ready for deer pose, decide if you want props along your left side. Decide if you'll swing your right leg back to the pinwheel legs. Let your torso get long. And settle in. You could play with the distance between knee and heel. If you can take the next few breaths focused on something happening in your own body. Whether that's the feeling of a particular joint or muscle, something about the breath, something you're experiencing from your five senses. Noting something a bit concrete about the body. Staying with that kind of observation, very body-focused observation. I invite you to make your way out of deer pose. Again, if you want to stay longer, spend the rest of your class there and then some. Absolutely can. We'll come out of deer pose. You know, if your body is speaking loudly or screaming something, it wants to stretch in a different direction, please do. And then when you're ready, we'll meet on our back, knees to chest. Let's spend several breaths here, knees to chest. Your choice if it's both knees together or if you do one at a time. Just coming back to some grounding, getting settled onto the mat again. So knees to chest or one knee to chest. You've got one knee in, go ahead and switch sides. Put both feet on the floor, knees to the ceiling. So feet pressed down, knees to the ceiling. Let your knees windshield wiper side to side. You can do this as slowly or as quickly as you'd like. I invite you to take full breaths, exhale, knees drop. Maybe take a full breath cycle. So instead of spending a few minutes in a spinal twist, we'll do it in a more transient way tonight. This windshield wiper. And you can decide if you keep your hips pretty steady and just let your knees drop. That'll be more of a hip stretch. Or if you let your hips roll all the way over, or a twist in the back and the spine. Okay, bring the hips back to the mat. Reach your toes, your feet, your heels towards the ceiling. Option, arms could reach towards the ceiling as well, or they could be down on the ground. We'll let the blood flow back to the heart. If there are other movements that you like to take, fidgets that you want to get out, shapes that you want to make before we take our final rest, you may do that. Letting everything just settle into the ground, very supported by the ground below you. And then with no rush at all, Make your way to your final rest. Let it be comfortable, relaxing. And once you arrive, you can let everything go and just be for a few minutes here. I'll let you know when it's time to move. The time is just about 6 o'clock here in Minnesota. I invite you to stay at rest, and I will end our call in just a couple minutes. If you want to come on up to seated, start with very small movements, moving the breath. Moving the body a bit, maybe a bit more to a stretch. Maybe take a new path up to seated, or maybe don't come to seated at all for the sake of trying something new. I'd love to end with a breath together from wherever you are. Take a big exhale to let everything out. Big inhale to fill up. And then exhaling together. Just reminding ourselves of our connection to one another, even if we're apart. Thanks so much for being here on this Sunday night with me. My name is Laura.